Hello guys, it's been a while. How you all doing and how's the pandemic so far? I hope you're keeping safe. So today's topic is going to be on sexual consent because due to the rape cases in Nigeria, I just feel I should shed more light on sexual consent. But before I do, I would like to tell you a story. So back then when I volunteered with ICS, that was when I learned about sexual consent because I didn't know much about sexual consent. I was told this story and I'd like to share it to you because I like talking about this story anytime I'm talking about consent. I feel it gives you a wider knowledge of what consent is really about. Okay, so it's a real life story, by the way. A girl and a guy were dating and then they were sexually active. So on this very day, they were having sex. And after the first round, I think they rested for a while, started the second round, and midway into the second round, she said stop. He continued. She said stop again. He continued. She said stop twice. And he continued. After it, he rested, continued the third round, and he left. After a while, she felt violated. She decided to take the case further. I think to court or so. And then when the case was being handled, she actually affirmed that the first and the third rounds were consensual. But halfway through that second round was not consensual because she said stop. And that was sexual assault. I'm sure to some of you it sounds ridiculous. Yeah, it did to me too when I didn't understand what consent meant. If this story still sounds ridiculous to you, it means you don't understand the basics of sexual consent. What is sexual consent? Sexual consent is a voluntary, cautious, and mutual agreement to engage in any sexual act. About this, I was telling one of my friends about this, and then we got arguing because she was so pissed. She was like, but it's unfair to the guy now. He was already aroused and into the stuff. It's not fair. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's not fair to him. First of all, I want you all to understand something. People have been through a lot in this life. Different people have been through a lot in this life. When you hear stop at any point, please stop. You don't know what is going through that person's head. You don't know what the person has gone through. I'm not saying this is it, but probably that girl was abused before. And maybe at that point, it didn't feel like pleasure again. It felt like pain, or it was reminding her of her abuse incident. You don't know. First of all, let me tell you something. I don't know if this applies for guys too, but I know for a girl, any girl that has been raped before, sexually assaulted, never forgets it. It's a lifetime trauma. Till she dies, it keeps reoccurring. So you should know the depth of this thing. So I now asked my friend a question. I was like, I'm not disputing the fact that the guy might be disappointed at that point. Yes, he was into it and she said stop and stuff like that. He'll probably get over it in less than 5 minutes. Her saying stop at that point meant she had to live with something she has been struggling with for a whole lifetime. So are you telling me it's better for her to keep quiet and endure a lifetime pain and trauma than for someone who can willingly and sensibly eject and manage himself for the next 3 minutes and be okay? Well, it's up to you to figure that out for yourself. So, back to consent. Silence is not consent. Silence can never be consent. The absence of no is not a yes. When it comes to consent, a verbal yes is consent. Because when you go to court, they won't say, she nodded and I continued. Nodding is not consent. Smiling is not consent. Doing, in fact, till you hear yes, that is consent. No is not consent. Indecent dressing is not consent. Yes, because I know this has been a topic and people like to bring it up when we talk of rape. Indecent dressing is not consent. Consent for one thing is not consent for another thing. If you ask me if you could kiss me and I say yes because I want to kiss you, and when we're kissing you proceed to touching of my boobs or removing of my top, I didn't give you consent for that. We didn't mutually agree on that. So that is sexual assault. Yes. Being in a relationship is not consent, obviously, from the story I told you now. Having sex with that person before is not consent to have sex with that person now. You must still ask and make sure you get a yes from that person. Being married is not consent. Just because I'm married to you doesn't mean you won't ask me and know if I'm willing. You should get a yes from me before we proceed. Making out is not consent. As a lady, I feel you should communicate your needs properly. You can want to make out and not want to have sex. It's not by force. Nobody should force you to do what you don't want to do just because you want to do something else. Yes. You can never ever get consent from anybody under the age of 18. That person is a child. You can never get, if you get a yes from a child, it's still not consent. It doesn't count as consent because that person is underage and not mentally ready to understand or proceed with whatever it is you people want to do. Remember, it's a mutual and cautious agreement. That person is not mentally cautious of the repercussions of that. Same goes for drunkenness. You can never get consent from someone who is drunk or passed out because that person is not cautious enough to mentally decide on whatever it is you want to do. So please don't even, if the person is drunk, don't even risk it. Being too afraid to say no is not consent. Visiting a guy is not consent. Because I know a lot of people make it sound like, what were you doing there? What took you to his house? If you're an adult, you have the right to visit friends and have fun. You have the right to stay late night and not feel threatened or be threatened by your fellow male counterparts of your safety. You have the right to feel equally as safe as they do hanging out late and not be pressured into doing anything you don't want to do. Going into a hotel room to visit a friend is not consent. Going to a hotel room to visit your boyfriend is not consent. Because I know this hotel thing brings a lot of questions and is unfair. I should feel comfortable to visit friends, have nice chats, and go away without being hurt or without being molested. Maybe is not consent. Only yes is consent. I want to urge us, guys, please and please, always ask, listen, seek consent before you continue. Please. Only yes is consent. The idea of consent is not to humiliate or frustrate anybody sexually, no. It's just to make sure that both parties are on the same page. It's just to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what is about to happen, that nobody feels violated at the end of it. It works both ways. Feel free to communicate your needs before you start anything. And if along the way you feel uncomfortable, also feel free to communicate it. And I feel everybody's wish should be respected too. I hope you've learned from this video, and I hope I'll get positive conversation starting up, and we'll talk more about it. If you have any questions, please on the comment section. If you like this video, please like it and drop your comment. Thank you so much, guys.